Today, we are going to look at 5 cards from Doom of Dimension that you must pick up as the set comes out. And a lot of these are cards that may not be fully on everyone's radar. So Doom of Dimensions doesn't do a ton to shake up the metagame. So as players looking for cards to pick up, most people are just picking up the obvious cards like Marshmallow to add to their Yummy deck. But I think there's a lot of hidden gems in the set that may not have immediate applications, but can still be very useful to add to your collection to be used in rogue decks or other decks in the future that, for all we know, could be meta. So I'm going to talk to you guys about which of these cards I think are absolutely imperative to pick up and keep an eye on, as they could be integral to any future strategies, or maybe even a cool pick right now. So the first card is a secret rare, Dogmatika Fleurdelis, the Thunderbolt. This card, it reads really insane, and people have talked about it, but I feel like it's not talked about enough, because when I read this, I thought, okay, this is one of the best cards I've seen in quite some time. And it hasn't really been reflected in that way based on the hype around it. Regardless, what does it do? So it is the same stat line as the old Dogmatika Fleurdelis. It is a 2500 attack, level 8, 2500 defense, spellcaster light, whatever. But its effect is significantly stronger. During the main phase, if a monster special summons from the extra deck is on the field, so again, either player's field like the other Fleurdelis, quick effect special summon itself. And this is where it differs. If it's special summoned from the hand, you can set 1 Dogmatika trap from your deck. So you can set a punishment. In that way, it's like a furniture piece, a Chandelier or a Stovey Torby in Labyrinth, where it gets you the Labyrinth card, and then you can use it next turn. But of course, if that was all it did, it would just be another Ecclesia, which not terrible, but not really great either. The next part of the effect is where it really ramps up, and that is, it can be activated this turn while your opponent controls a Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link. So essentially an extra deck card with 2500 or more attack. So now if your opponent is committing to their combo, you get to grab a Dogmatika punishment. And then assuming they have other bodies alongside with lower attack, or 2500 exactly, you can then send Entis, you pop a card, and then Entis pop another card. That means this now acts as double destruction, or it could be Garura instead, or it can send Titanic Lad for follow-up. It can essentially do whatever you need it to do, which is crazy. As far as hand trap goes, we've been talking about in this last few months how removal hand traps are very, very powerful, and it marks a shift in Yu-Gi-Oh's kind of game design. And with Holly Sue being a prime example of why something like that is so powerful. And this feels like that, where you get that removal and you get to accrue advantage in the body and whatever you send off a punishment. So it's a huge swing in tempo and in value, and its conditions to activate really aren't that much. Now, the bigger condition to activate is punishment does require you to lock yourself to the extra deck for the next turn. So why this hasn't been screamed about more is when you're playing this in a deck, you really have to lock it behind a deck that doesn't mind forgoing its extra deck, which in modern Yu-Gi-Oh is a pretty big restriction. But there are plenty of decks that do fit the bill here. For example, I mentioned earlier, Labyrinth is a prime example. Labyrinth does not need the extra deck, and it fits super neatly in Labyrinth's game plan of being a more traditional hand trap style deck in some cases, but interacting with cards like Arias and Traps and Black Olafs and Stovey Torby and so on. And this really fits that suite rather nicely. Now, I have had some pushback with saying this is a light that conflicts with Impulse, but you can organize this in a way where they won't conflict, and it's good. As well as this is a good target to search off Nadir Servant. So now you can play Dogmatika packages in other decks, and before maybe you would have considered not playing Ecclesia because it's just an okay card. Like, drawing it's not fantastic. If you're mapping out like 3 Fleurdelis and 3 Nadirs, you're now alleviating the bricks, with your bigger bricks now being punishment only, and punishment is not as bad of a draw as Ecclesia, because at least it doesn't conflict the normal summon. It's just not great going second. Of course, there's other decks that can use it too. For example, let's talk about Regenesis. Of course, this 25-25 stat line does very nicely line up with what they're trying to do, and of course, the extra deck isn't important there. And again, you can go heavier on the Dogmatika package with Nadir Servants as well if you want to see this card more often, or keep it lean with just 3 copies so you can draw it as a hand trap. It's a super flexible card in that regards. Now, because of those deck restrictions for the moment, it does look like it's not going to have any immediate game-breaking success. It's not going to take over the format, and it hasn't in Japan. But that's why it's important to think of cards in sort of a vacuum and how they could interact with other things, because that's how you can truly assess how good something is. Just because there's not the right environment for it to thrive the way it could at this moment in time doesn't mean it won't in the future. So I think this card is an absolutely mandatory pick 3 up of. And if you want to be flashy because you have high rarity Dogmatika cards, play QCRs or Starlights now. Sorry, I have to keep that up. No, but this card is fantastic. And I think that it is a must buy from Doom Dimensions, especially as anticipation will probably be at an all-time low with this card as the set drops, and there's not that many decks that can immediately use it. But yeah, I'm sure one day a trap or slow deck will come about, or a non-extra deck based deck like Monarchs or whatever, and this card will be an absolutely key staple in it. The next card on this list is a card that is getting a lot of attention, but I think it's kind of misguided a little bit. And that is K904 Noroi. Yeah, I talked about Marshmallow being one of the best cards to pick up from the set, obviously, and it's not surprising to see that happen. Because, yeah, these are the cards that directly support the Justice Hunter themes, which came out long ago and are dominating the meta. But when people talk about Noroi and they're going off of the OCG sort of template built for them, they're kind of locked in on one copy. And to me, this seems weird, because kind of break down your heuristics and your common preconceptions for a second. Let's read what this card does. If your opponent has 2 or more cards in hand, summon it without tributing, which means essentially when you go first, you can just summon it, which is super convenient and is important because its effect matters. And then when it's normal summoning, special summon a non-machine K9 from your deck, and then you're locked out of summoning from the next deck except K9s while you control that monster, whatever. And then its other effect, which is actually really good, is you can send a face with K9 card you control to the grave, look at your opponent's hand. So obviously you combo that effect with Case, and it means that Case searching this is also very good because you can immediately look at their opponent's hand, and it gives you a solid way of playing around stuff. Now, special summon a deck on normal summon, that's just Ice Ryziel. Like, I feel like I shouldn't have to explain that that's broken. And people saying it's just a one of kind of confuse me. The reason why you may play only one of this card is your deck has other normal summons already, and that's completely fine. If your deck is lacking normal summons like the new Vanquish Soul deck, this card could easily be a 3 of, because you could summon either Azuna to send Lupus or Jokul or Lantern, get the search off whatever you summon, then make Ripper, then search again, and it expands into these strong plays. And then obviously it's 2 5s in hand for Jokul to summon out, which can then set up the Lantern play. And of course this will cycle through so you end on several rank 5s, or Saryuja combo plus Ripper is also super easy to do. And setting up the rank of a spell in the meantime, and its commitment's very minimal. It feels Ryziel-esque in that way. That can't possibly be bad. So while this card isn't some surprise thing to pick up, I think many people who are eyeing just buying one are kind of not seeing the big picture here. This card could very easily be a 3 of. Just because 1 or 2 variants that are predominant in the OCG, with their ban list, mind you, is the trend right now, doesn't mean it could very easily shift towards a 3 of. Even if not in the future right now. I think it's very possible that decks that do well at the upcoming YCS in Lille, in Lima, could play 3 of this card. It's a fantastic card, and I think people don't give it enough credit for what it is. And a reminder, if you want any of these cards or any other Yu-Gi-Oh cards, make sure to get them at TierZeroGames.com. And if you use the code Jesse5, you will get 5% off on your entire purchase, as well as it does directly support me, so it would go a long way in helping out. Now, the next card on this list is also K9-esque, but this one is a little more off the beaten path. So as players like myself look for how else to utilize the K9 package with both Crystron and Vanquish Soul getting hit, we look up other level 5s, and not every level 5 and a deck level 5s is a good candidate to mix with the heavy K9 package. For example, I don't think Dracotel K9 with the heavy package really makes sense either. But there is a deck that is in the underground communities almost, getting a little bit of traction. And it's one you might not ever have expected. It's K9 Solfachord. And with that, you may notice that Doom of Dimensions brings out new Solfachord cards. So they're all low rarity and incredibly easy to pick up. For example, Solfachord Primoa is just a common. In fact, I think all of the Solfacards are either common or maybe there's 1 or 2 supers, but a set of a few Solfacards are coming out in the mid-dimensions that give this deck some life. Now, the level 5 in this deck you're going to play is not a new one. It's from Angu, so Ancient Guardians. Go pick that up if you haven't already. It's Solfachord Gracie, which is essentially a Stratos on summon for a spell card when it's summoned. And now you can do that significantly easier than before, thanks to cards like Jokul, obviously. And you have many ways to access it with Noroi, Case, Ripper, etc. It's very easy to access your cards. And then because Gracie's level 5 and it's a pendulum, meaning you can search off cards like Beyond the Pendulum, it's accessible to the point where you can convert your Solfacards into canine cards at the same time. The Solfachord cards are similar-ish to classic pendulums. The new spells allow you to search cards and put cards in the extra deck and scale cards super easily, allowing for semi-big pendulum pushes, which you can convert into generic extra deck monsters like IP into SP via the canine XYZs like Nash, Knight, Ripper, the set card. You can also expand upon it with some of the fairy supports. For example, Herald of the Orange Light is a very playable card, as well as the Solfacords could provide you some negation in the pen zone. For example, Solfachord Solfagia acts as a negate, and then one of the link 3s in the deck, Grand Solfachord Coolia, is going to be another negate. So you actually build up into a field that is quite powerful, and it summons multiple negates, which is not something that necessarily has been common in the last recentish bit. We've been more removal based, but it maintains good removal with still having the canine quick play spell and Ash Knight. So it flows incredibly well between engines and can make some pretty nasty fields, as well as access to premium non-engine with cards like Orange Light. And importantly, there's enough one card combos in the Solfachord deck by itself without the canine cards, then you can afford to play hand traps. So it's not just going to be some 40 engine card deck. It can play contained, it can play well with canines, it can play with hand traps, and it can become a well-rounded deck. Now, if you guys want me to build a Solfachord canine deck for the channel, and you can see it in action as well as my take on the deck, then let me know in the comments below, and that's something that I can definitely do. Keep an eye out for these Solfachord cards. They are super cheap, so if you're even remotely considering it, just get them now before there's any chance of them going up. That includes the old Solfachord cards. The next card on this list is another common out of the set, but one that you must pick up, as this card is truly quite incredible, and that is Radiant Typhoon Vision. So it's very debatable that the Radiant Typhoon cards may not make a big meta impact. The cards have some potential, but I'm not sure if they'll truly be a force to be reckoned with. It might be a fun deck to give a shot, and with more support could definitely get there, because a lot of the cards are powerful. It's just not enough yet. However, this card is great, and let's read it, and you'll see why in a moment. It's a quick play spell that has 2 effects, and you can use 1 of each effect per turn. So if you have 2 of the card, you can use both effects, but that's not super important. It lets you draw 2 cards and then discard 1 Radiant Typhoon card or a quick play spell. But if you don't, then discard your hands, like Allure Darkness. Other effect is to add a Mystical Space Typhoon from your deck or graveyard to your hand. And then if it's destroyed by the effect of MST, a Mystical Space Typhoon, you get to set it. Now, this card is like Allure of Darkness. Draw 2, discard 1, quick play spell. It doesn't have to be a Radiant Typhoon card. And that means it has applications in any deck throughout the rest of history that has quick play spells. Runic, Sky Striker, even like Mass Change of the Heroes. It's hard to know because it gives these decks more consistency or more push. But you also have the utility of now, if you ever want back removal in your deck, and you have 3 visions already in your deck, you can add 1 Mystical Space Typhoon into your deck, and now you have 4 copies of it because you can always search it. And in a format where there's floodgates or a very powerful spell trap to out, this card acts as not extension per se, but consistency and ramp. For when you go first or go second, it can be a very pivotal tool to break through the opponent's field. And it's 4 card payoff with only 1 card really bricking you, which is an important trade-off because utility is really good within modern Yu-Gi-Oh! In fact, it's always been good in Yu-Gi-Oh! That part hasn't changed. But this could really bolster the already growing power of the Sky Striker deck for right now. So if you're a Sky Striker player, pick this card up. It is super valuable to have, and even if you don't use it in the immediate, it's a card that definitely could become powerful in the future, and I definitely think it is worthwhile to consider. Now, before I move on to the final 5th card that I want to show you guys, I actually have a bit of a bonus one. Now, this card is a card that is super cute, and it may not be the most impactful, but I think is kind of cool, and its niche applications could give it a spot in the metagame in the near future. That card is called Apocavities. It's a common from the set, but a continuous spell that can place counters on it equal to the number of cards your opponent controls. So spells, traps, monsters, whatever. And then once per turn, you can remove up to 4 counters from the card, and then it gets one of the following effects based on the number you removed. It can lose 500 attack, make it 0, and it gets effects, or destroy it. So it's 4 counters to destroy it. Now, at first glance, this isn't great. This is like Soul Taker. It's just pop a card, right? Pop a monster. That's not very good, right? Well, yeah, it's not great. But what's cool about this is it's a continuous spell. So after you use it for the pop, the card lingers there. And so many cards in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Discard or send cards off the field that the floating continuous spell is almost like a body. It can convert into something else. Like think Snake Eye, for example, or Ice Rizel or Node Rizel. Those random lingering cards now have actual applications. So the fact that this pops a card and then can become a resource later might be useful in some decks in the future. So while this card isn't screaming broken, its neat and niche sort of applications mean that it's not impossible for a environment to arise where this card becomes useful. So I recommend you guys give a look to this card because I think it is super neat. And maybe one day Apocavities will be giving all our opponents some cavities.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But okay, now the final card I wanted to look at within Doom of Dimensions is a card that I think has really been going under the radar. And maybe that's because it doesn't have the best search targets right now, but it is still very strong. And that is the new spirit monster, Ichiki Sayori-Hime. Yeah, so this card is level 4 light fairy spirit monster with 800 attack, 800 defense. And it has the same clause as the other spirits do, where it can't be special summoned, entering the end phase. If it was summoned this turn, it goes back to your hand. Now, importantly, its effects are, if you control a monster with 800 attack or defense, and this card's in your hand, you can normal summon it in addition to normal summon or set. So this means there are many cards this card can just summon out for, like an extender. But of course, many cards can just summon themselves. This doesn't mean that much. What else does it do? Well, upon summon, you get to add from next to hand any light or dark level 4 with either 800 attack or 800 defense. Now, this may seem restrictive, but there are a lot of cards to work with. Now, for example, take Aratama. Level 4, 800 attack, 1800 defense, dark, fiend, spirit, which on summon lets you add a spirit monster next to your hand. So you can summon Aratama and then search your Ichiki, summon the Ichiki, and then search for something else. Now that's a free rank 4, and then you have a search for either another Aratama or who knows what else is useful. I'll go into those in a second. Some cards you can search include Exorcister Martha, which is kind of insane. This deck has struggled with consistency for quite a bit, and this gives you more extension as well as more starters, which is really important, I think. So definitely something to keep out an eye for in that deck. You could search Phantom Skyblaster. If you're able to conserve your normal summon when using this, then Skyblaster can generate a ton of bodies. What about starter cards? Well, Melodious Refrain is 800 defense, level 4 light. Or you grab Thunder King Ryo to floodgate out your opponent. Maybe you want to grab Cyberse Extenders and turn the Ichiki into Amirage. Well, grab Wizard Administer. And that's just a taste of what it can search. Now, truly, the cards that it can search are not the biggest pool, and there's not a ton of options to look out for. For one, this doesn't mean too much because new cards may come out in the future that change that, but there's still good things to search. What's important to note here is the summoning conditions don't require that same level and attribute restriction. So if you have anything with 800 attack or defense, you can summon it. So that means if you summon an Artemis, the Magician's Moon, you can summon it from your hand. So you don't commit your normal summon, then great. Or a Crusadia Arborea, again, conserving your normal summon here. That way you can search a Floodgate or Phantom Skyblaster off of your Ichiki is pretty useful. A Destiny Hero Malicious, an EMP Meow Mine. Maybe it's an extender to combo with Snake Eye Ash. What about backup at Ignister? And then you search the wizard. So now your backup can search like a Dormouse, discard it, and then you can go Ichiki, search wizard. And of course, it's not a special summon, it's a normal summon, so it doesn't lock you out of transcode. And you can do it after you lock yourself into Cyberse or whatever. But regardless, it's completely flexible. And then if you need to be a Cyberse, again, you just make Almirage and problem solved, just like that. And I'm sure there are many other crazy targets for this card. For example, I know Neptibus 800 attack. So while this card is something that may not have the utmost competitive implications right now, it's a very premium quality extender that will absolutely have its time at some point, and it does have cool things you can do with it even right now. So make sure you guys pick up 3 of your own Ichikis today. And if you guys want to catch more content on this channel, then please make sure to subscribe. This is another place where I post meta content. If you want to see more, then you guys know what to do. But I'm also curious, were there any sleeper hits within Doom of Dimension that maybe I didn't mention today that you think are going to be flying under the radar? I'm curious to see if I missed anything super impactful and what your thoughts are, because, you know, I'm not perfect, and there's always some other cool things that are laying in wait around the corner. And with that said, guys, have a good one. I'll catch y'all later.